In Investigation 5, we're going to work with percents. Well, what is a percent? Percent means per 100. Well, in the past, we've worked with our place values, blocks, and there was a square, a large square, one whole square, and it had 100 small squares. We're going to look now at shading part of that in and what the percentage is. So if we remember, one column had 10 blocks in it. Here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how many squares are shaded in? There are 50 squares. So 50 out of 100. Well, percent is out of 100, so per 100. So we have 50%. As a decimal, this could also be written 0 and 50 hundredths. There's 50 squares that are shaded. Well, what would one square be? If you just shaded one of these squares here, what would that percentage be? It's 1 out of 100. So the percentage would be, take a guess, 1%. Okay, we're going to look at a few circles that are shaded in. Here we have 2 parts. So if I was writing this as a fraction, that would be 2. How much is shaded? 1 part. So as a percentage, 1/2 is just 50%. I think we're pretty familiar with that. We're going to look at a few others. Here again, I count for my denominator, how many parts are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 that make up the whole circle. 1 part is shaded. Now if I think in terms of money, there's 4 quarters in 1 whole dollar. So the 4 is the same. And one of those is worth 25 cents. So it's the same, it's just 25%. And as a decimal, that would be 0 and 25 hundredths. Try the next one. Count how many pieces there are to make up the whole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But we're only going to look at the 1 part that's shaded to get the percent that's shaded in. Well, 1 out of 10, and I think in terms of money again, so there are 10 dimes in a whole dollar, and 1 dime is worth 10 cents, so that would be 10%. And if I take that to a decimal, we're going to have 0 and 10 hundredths. Alright, we're going to look at a word problem. $1 is what fraction of $5? Explain the relationship as a percent. So I'm going to write my fraction first and work with that. The whole goes on the bottom, or the denominator. So what's the whole that we're looking at? The whole part, whole number, would be $5. Out of that $5, we only have $1. So it's 1/5. So you have to think, how would that translate to a percentage? So we take the 100, because percents per 100, divide that by 5, and we have 20. So 1 part is 20%. Let's look in terms of measurements like we've done before. We're going to work with pints. There's 1 cup. 1 cup is what percent of 1 pint. So I have my fraction. I know there are 2 cups in a pint, so 2 is my denominator. But I'm only looking at 1 of those cups. So my fraction's 1/2. That translates to a percentage of 50%. Try the next one. 3 quarts is what percent of 1 gallon? First, you need to know in your fraction, your denominator, what number is going to go here? It's going to be how many quarts are in 1 gallon. So think about that. There are 4 quarts in 1 gallon. Now we're looking at 3 quarts to find our percentage. So 3/4. We know that 1/4 is 25 cents, 2/4 is 50, 3/4 is 75. So we get 75%. We're going to find the remaining, or finding what's not shaded in these problems. So right here I have a circle. Only 25% of it is shaded. So if I think I have 1/4 shaded, how many are not shaded? That would be 3/4, or 75%. Try this one on your own. Pause the video, do the problem, and then resume. If you have 40%, so you have 100, you're subtracting 40, you get 60%. So 100s are whole, remember? Subtract 40, your percentage that is not shaded is 60%. In a word problem, we're going to try it. If 60% of the answers were correct, then what percent of the answers were not correct? So we take our 100, subtract 60, and we get 40%. We're going to write that as a fraction. Well, I'm going to take 40 over what number? It's our whole. Percentages are out of 100, so 40 over 100. Then as a decimal, I have 40 over 100, or 40 hundredths. Right, we're going to compare a half and a quarter and explain how we get these answers. I have 38% and I have 1/4, or 1/4. They're not the same labels. I have percentage and fraction, so I need to make them the same. I'm not going to change 38% because I don't know that as a fraction. But I know that 1/4 is the same as 25%. So now I can compare these. So do that now. You should have said 38% is greater than 25%. Number 2, 50% compared to 1/2. Change one of these numbers. Since we did percentage here, we'll do a fraction on this one. 50% is the same as 1 over 2, or 1/2. So these two numbers are equal. And the third one, go ahead and change 1/4 to a percent like we did earlier. That would be 25%. And we know that 50% is greater than 25%. Right. We're going to look at these in problems where you have to think about the number in the denominator first. So 50% of a dozen. Before I can do that, I need to know how much is in a dozen. There are 12. So 50%, or half of 12, would be 6. So if your dozen was talking about eggs, you would have 6 eggs. Let's try the next one. How much money is 50% of $18? The whole that we're looking at, the whole group, is 18. So 18 is our denominator. Then we need to find our numerator here. Well, what is 50% of 18? Or what's half of 18? Do that now. You should have got 9. So 9 is half of 18. Or you would have $9.